Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I'm actually looking forward to speaking with you. I do apologize if there's any thunder in the background. At the moment, it's raining and the joys of working from home. So I'm Mitch Barnes. I work at NetApp as a cloud solution architect. And today I'm here to talk to you about how NetApp can help you succeed with hybrid cloud. First thing I'd like to define is what is hybrid cloud? There are quite a few different definitions on the internet if you have a look, but NetApp in particular has what I thought was quite a good definition of hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud refers to a mix of compute, storage, and services in an environment made up from infrastructure, be that on-prem or in the private cloud or public cloud. And I suppose another key point there is orchestration among the various platforms. So as we've seen over the last decade and even before that, there's been an explosion of technology and available technologies that you can use within your business to achieve your technology strategy, whatever that might be. This particular slide's a bit of an eye chart to say the least, but you can see that it's broken up into a few different sections, particularly infrastructure, analytics, enterprise apps, cross-infrastructure analytics, open source, and then data sources and data resources. One thing I've seen, and we've seen it as NetApp across the Asia Pacific region, is most customers today are using many of these different products within their environment. And they're using them to run line of business applications, right the way through to simple services or applications that generate revenue for their business. And one of the biggest challenges we've seen is being able to manage data that flows through between these systems. As you could imagine, in your environment, especially if you had a look at a dependency map or a mapping of how all these applications talk to each other or talk to external sources, think a SaaS solution, for example, it'd be quite comprehensive, to say the least, and in some ways quite daunting to understand how you could manage all this. So really what I wanted to talk to you today is about how to make data work for you, not you work for it, if that makes sense. And there's a few key tenets that I'd like to focus on particularly, which is how to protect your data, how to secure it, where you can store it, how to scale, how to analyze, and then finally how to optimize. If you think about all these different things, the one thing that NetApp's built over many years is this concept of a data fabric. And with our ONTAP software, we can help you do that and follow these 6 tenets you can see on the screen here, no matter where your data is. But one of the big questions we get asked commonly is, how do I build a data fabric? What are some of the things in your portfolio that can help me do that? And in the next couple of slides, I'll talk you through some of NetApp's portfolio, how we partner with the major public clouds, and how you could use our solutions in your environment to create your own data fabric. So how can you build a data fabric with NetApp? First thing is our Cloud Manager product. So this is a SaaS-based solution, full cloud, and it allows you to manage your data environment no matter where that is, be that in one of the public clouds, as you can see in the middle there, be it in a data center or even in a branch office. Secondly is our cloud storage capability. So as I mentioned before, NetApp's partnered with the 3 primary public clouds, which you can see in the center of the screen, Azure, Google Cloud, and AWS. And we have native solutions in each of those, as well as third-party solutions that you can use through the marketplace. The great part is that some of these solutions have built-in enterprise storage capability, so you can save on storage cost, for example, among a number of other things. The next is cloud data protection. So being able to protect your data, be it in cloud or on-prem. Last, finally, the private cloud. So in terms of private cloud, this is something that we're seeing more and more where customers want to use the economics of cloud. So being able to pay per use or pay per month and not necessarily commit to a large CapEx spend. NetApp released a solution a while ago, actually, called Keystone. So that lets you build a private cloud within your own data center, but pay for it as you use it and as you need it. And NetApp's got a number of engineered systems that they've had for many years that support both flash and hybrid storage. From a cloud to edge perspective, and we see a lot of customers, especially when you think of COVID, for example, where they've got end users or their own customers working from home these days, trying to connect to their services in cloud. Hybrid cloud has grown, and especially public cloud has grown in adoption. So being able to leverage software-based services that bring the data closer to the users where they need it is really important, and we've got a solution for that, as well as being able to optimize your cloud cost. So with the explosion of cloud growth, especially due to global pandemics like COVID, and that's been pushing along organizations' a hybrid cloud strategy or even digital transformation strategy, NetApp acquired a company a couple of years ago called Spot.io, and I'll take you through that in a little bit later on how we can help you save up to 90% on your cloud compute and storage costs. And then lastly, being able to understand what your data is, where it is, who has access to it, but then also to understand how the infrastructure and applications are performing that host your data. So moving along, focusing on Cloud Manager, as I mentioned before, you could think of this as like your central pane of glass for managing your own data fabric using NetApp technology. As you can see on the left here, there's a number of features that it has, but it's so simple to use. It's a simple HTML5 web interface. And from within this, we can see what we call a canvas. And within a canvas, we can create our own working environment. So now you've just seen pop up on the screen ONTAP 01. So that's an on-premises NetApp system. I can actually connect that to a number of different clouds in a number of different ways. So for example, I can do a replication from our on-prem system into AWS. I could then also do an independent replication of data into Azure and even Google. But then I might have a requirement to move data between clouds. So we're using Cloud Volumes ONTAP, which is our own ONTAP software running on cloud infrastructure. We're able to replicate data between clouds, so from Google to Azure, or even from Azure to AWS. Or alternatively, we might want to replicate it to a native service like Azure NetApp Files, or Google's Cloud Volume Service, or NetApp Cloud Volume Service in AWS, or even back again. But with Cloud Manager, provides you that capability to understand and visualize your whole storage and data environment and be able to put the data in the right place at the right time. And as you can see here on the left, it doesn't matter what application you run. We have support for a whole ecosystem from Microsoft, for example, SAP, Red Hat, Azure workloads, Google workloads, AWS workloads, or even on-prem. So no matter where your application's running, we've got the capability to support the data that it produces. One thing that's really important though, as I mentioned before, is cloud data protection. So NetApp's built a solution called Cloud Backup Service, but then also too, built into our ONTAP software, we have native snapshot technology. And that allows you to take snapshots of your storage on-prem or your applications on-prem, and then back that up to object storage in the cloud. This is a really good option for customers that are looking to get started with hybrid cloud transformation, especially around simple things like tape replacement, for example. But then also too, if you're running our Cloud Volumes ONTAP software, uh, you can not only back those up to object storage, but you can also too restore data from on-prem and run it in a Cloud Volumes ONTAP instance. Why this is important is because one thing we see as customers transition to a hybrid cloud model is that the overall cost and challenge sometimes prohibits an all-in movement. So in some cases, it can be more cost effective and make better business sense to do something like DR to the cloud initially. And by leveraging our snapshot and snap mirror capability along with cloud backup service, we give you the capability to do that. So moving along, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is NetApp Astra. So many years ago, NetApp built a persistent storage driver for Kubernetes. And originally, containers were created for stateless applications. But the problem is that the data is not stateless. The data is stateful. And the data that container workloads generate can, in some cases, be very business critical. So one challenge we see very commonly in Kubernetes environments, no matter where that may be, is the ability to not only persist that data, but then also to be able to make that data available. So for example, you might have a development team that are doing development in a Kubernetes environment on-prem, and they want to deploy those containers or images to maybe EKS in AWS, for example, or GKE in Google, for example. Again, I mentioned that snap mirror and snapshot technology. We can help you do that. And you could think of Astra as that layer that sits over the top and gives you the capability to manage your Kubernetes environment, especially from a storage perspective, no matter where that might be. I might just pause there because I have been talking for a little bit and I just wanted to see if there was any questions from the audience. I can't see any there, so I will come back and check that shortly. The next thing is, and we see this very commonly, when customers move to cloud or are focusing on a hybrid cloud transformation, one big challenge we see is getting the data there. NetApp, we support native replication from NetApp ONTAP on-prem to NetApp in the cloud, whether it's a native or a third-party marketplace service. But one challenge we see quite a bit is customers that want to move storage from heterogeneous environments, maybe a legacy file server that they're looking to decommission and use a native service in cloud that provides file services, for example. So NetApp built a tool or a technology called Cloud Sync. Again, Cloud Sync's available through our Cloud Manager software, and it gives you the capability to simply select a source. So that could be an on-prem NetApp array, for example, and a destination, and easily and securely, and I think that's a key point, securely migrate the data or synchronize the data with that destination. Or alternatively, we support a number of different sources and destinations. Now, this is a really simple tool to use, and we've had a number of customers across the APAC region in particular use this to consolidate things like their file services environment to the cloud, and then be able to present that back out to users using something like our global file cache technology that I'll talk about in a bit. The next thing around private cloud. So I touched on this briefly before. NetApp's been a pioneer in engineered appliance systems. NetApp's been in operation for almost 30 years. And we've built some industry-leading solutions, be it all-flash systems that provide cloud-connected storage, object storage solutions, or even reference architectures with various hardware partners like Cisco, for example. As you can see on the right-hand side here, deploying a NetApp system is very simple today. Management's very simple. It's done through a HTML5 interface. But probably one thing to note is that no matter if ONTAP is on an engineered appliance, or it's sitting maybe in a software-defined solution or in the cloud, it's the same operating system. And I'll come back to that in a little bit more in a couple of slides' time. But I mentioned before about organizations consolidating file services to the cloud. One big challenge we see quite often is that when a file services workload is moved to the cloud, the end user might not get the same experience that they were used to when that data was stored close to them on-prem, for example, or delivered out of a local data center. What Global File Cache does is that it's some software that NetApp acquired from a company called Talon a number of years ago. And we've built this into our ecosystem. As you can see on the File Cache tab within the Cloud Manager screen, you can deploy Global File Cache. It will understand your source of data, and then you can deploy its software in remote locations. In this case, we're showing San Francisco, London, and Sydney, and it will cache files that are most commonly used. There's a few different algorithms we have, but generally most commonly used close to the users. I think what's really interesting about this too is that it supports things like compression, for example, and encryption, but it also supports global locking as well. So if I'm a user that has a file open in London, for example, that a user, if they're in San Francisco, tries to open that file, they'll get a notification that it's already in use. It also ties in really nicely with some of the Windows features. So users can get an understanding of what files are cached locally or what's in the cloud, for example. So moving along, a bit earlier, I talked about cost optimization. Actually, NetApp has another session particularly on Spot, so I'm not going to talk about it in too much detail. But Spot is a capability that we have, again, which is built into Cloud Manager that you can see. And we have a number of different products that fall under that Spot banner that help you save money on compute in cloud. In particular, Cloud Analyzer, so you can get a good understanding of what's happening within your cloud environment, where you're spending money, where you could potentially save money. Then also too, how it works from an optimization perspective, or even just a further breakdown of cost analysis. What's really unique about Spot is that not only will it tell you where there's opportunity to save cost, it will help you do that. So there are a number of tools out there at the moment that will give you information on how much you can save, but it won't go and make any changes within your environment and allow you to do that. Sometimes the resource availability and capability of technical resources to make those changes can be challenging. So being able to do that in a very automated way works really well. Another part I touched on around cloud controls and analytics was being able to understand how your applications and infrastructure and storage is performing. One thing we see as part of a migration process with customers to the cloud, in some cases, they don't baseline or benchmark their applications and how they run on-prem and get a surprise when they move them to the cloud. One thing our Cloud Insights product allows you to do is quickly understand your infrastructure environment on-prem, be able to build out a map of dependencies, particularly from an infrastructure perspective, including storage, but also technologies like VMware or Microsoft or virtual machines, etc. And then from that data that you've gathered, you can easily understand what's a good candidate to move to cloud and then analyze its performance over time. So as you move it to cloud, how's the application performing? Once it's in cloud, what's the application's performance like and is it acceptable? I think the other big thing is with Cloud Insights particularly is around an industry term we refer to as MTTR or MTTD, so mean time to resolution and mean time to detection. One big thing is being able to find a problem quickly when it occurs in your technology environment. Sometimes troubleshooting occurs that's done based off engineer experience or gut feel. And in cases, that gut feel's not always right. So being able to quickly drill down to the source of a problem and see an application or a service and the full stack of infrastructure and technology that supports it is really important. The next is around optimization. So being able to understand what your environment or how your environment's performing, but then also too, what unused infrastructure you might have within your environment. We're able to easily show you through some built-in dashboards of Cloud Insights, what instances, for example, within cloud aren't used, so that you could do things like either A, shut them down so that you're not paying for compute unnecessarily, or maybe remove them from your environment. Also, too, we've got built-in ransomware detection. So, for example, as you can see on the screen here, there's one particular affected volume that's hosted by a NetApp array, and it's got a number of encrypted files. One thing we can do with a built-in snapshot technology is be able to help you recover extremely quickly from a ransomware attack, and also to stop it before it becomes a larger problem within your environment. And then lastly, built in is our compliance capability. So one challenge I see a lot is customers being able to classify their data and understand what data types they have within their environment, who has access to it, where it's located, is any of the data personally identifiable information, for example, and so forth. And using cloud compliance capability, you're able to not only understand all of these things that I just mentioned, but able to show that back to others as well. Maybe you've got to comply with particular regulations for your business or where your business is located. And sometimes if you're a global business, those regulations can change. So in terms of key takeaways, there's three things I really want to leave you with today. NetApp brings enterprise capability to public cloud. NetApp's built and perfected a storage operating system called ONTAP over 30 years, and we've co-developed and partnered with the world's biggest public cloud providers to not only have native services in each, but also have third-party marketplace products as well. And I think what's quite unique is that NetApp is the only infrastructure and data storage management vendor there today that has a native service within each cloud. The next is around providing a consistent experience. So in a hybrid cloud strategy or a digital transformation, I think the biggest thing that I see as a technologist is a major skills shortage. This isn't just an APJ or an APAC wide problem. This is a global problem. And organizations typically struggle with finding the right people to support their environment as they transition to cloud. If you remember back, I showed you that slide with all those technologies. that can be quite hard to manage and maintain, especially for technology resources that have been used to maintaining an environment in a data center that's now extended into the cloud. One big thing about NetApp ONTAP is that it provides you a consistent experience. So you could think of that from a command set, a management perspective, an automation perspective, an efficiency perspective, and so on. So no matter if you're running ONTAP in your data center, in the cloud, in a remote site, or a combination of all those things, one thing that's constant is the ONTAP software. And that can not only help you keep your data efficient, no matter where it is, but it can make it significantly easier to manage from an operational and skill set perspective as well. And probably the last point I want to leave you with is NetApp truly does help you perform. We've helped our own business perform using our own technology while we transform. And we've helped a number of organizations, both in the APJ region and globally, transform the way they operate today. By being able to utilize our broad portfolio and ecosystem that has rich integration with each product, it doesn't necessarily create any additional technical debt for you. And that was it from me. Thank you very much.